Hey legends, Gaz here and welcome to Gaz's Garage. Yep, that's right, episode 6. It's been fun so far, hasn't it? I hope you've enjoyed the first 5 episodes of season 2 and I hope you enjoyed the backdrop of Gaz's Garage, my garage, yeah. So yeah, what have we got happening behind me at the moment? Got the dirt mod on the shelf from the weekend, haven't washed it yet, that'll be a bit later on tonight. Got the Wingler, or the Outlaw sitting apart on the bench, just going through some of the tidy up a few loose ends, a little bit of damage there on from Saturday night's racing. Left front wheel come off and end up upside down, but hey, it's joys of racing. It was a great night's racing. You would have got an update anyway early on in the week on Sunday night wrap as well, and with cap of the week. So let's jump into tonight's episode. What are we going to discuss tonight? What have we got? What's conversations in the garage? Well, tonight I'm going to give you my top 5 Speedway families. That by that I mean the families of 2 or 3 generations that have continued racing throughout both Australia and in the US. And yeah, like I usually do with my top 5s, this is just my opinion and what I've learned over the years and what I've seen over my years involved in Speedway and motorsport. I think I got a pretty good know what's going on. Been doing it a lot of years, I've been a part of it, and now I'm starting to wind down but doing RC Speedway, which is still the same. I still got a passion for my NASCAR and Outlaws and stuff like that, late model racing, dirt mods and that in the US and Australia. I don't get to the Speedway as much as I used to, mainly because it's in Toowoomba now, and it's an hour and a bit drive, and Saturday night after you've been working all week and stuff like that, it's the last thing I want to do. I spend enough time driving. Last thing I want to do is head up the hill and go watch some Speedway. I'd love to see a track back down this way, but you never know what happens. There's a track sitting out there that just needs a bit of work done out at Willowbank. Hopefully someone will jump on that in due time. Andrew Corbett's getting in the process of getting one open up in their Bribey Way. And there's also a couple of others, talks of other tracks opening up around the track, but we'll see what happens in the next few years. So let's jump into the top 5, and you can't really have a top 5. I'm going to go from 1 to 5 this time instead of from 5 to 1. You can't really have a top 5 for Speedway, particularly sprint cars, without mentioning the Kinsers. Steve Kinser, Carl Kinser, Sheldon Kinser, the list goes on. They've been out here, they've been racing, and they've raced in the US, they've won World of Outlaws, they've won Eldora, they've won Knoxville. You name it, Steve Kinser's pretty well won it all with Carl and that on the Spanners. And then he's got Craig Kinser, his son, running around still and things like that. I still believe Steve does jump in a car from time to time and have a drive. But yeah, there's probably 3 generations running sprint cars now with the Kinsers. And there's probably still Mark's kids are racing. I'd say Randy and all that. We had four of them come out quite a few years ago, back in the late 80s, early 90s. And toured with the JPS Nance cars they were running. They they toured Australia, mainly up the East Coast. They came in Parramatta, Newcastle Motordrome back in the day, Archfield, Maryborough, Toowoomba. And yeah, they did the tour. And then they come out a couple of years later with the Commodore 30s, and it was all cigarette money that brought them out. Once the cigarette advertising was made illegal, that you couldn't advertise in sport anymore, cigarettes, that kind of, the money dwindled. That, and we didn't get the touring Americans didn't come out as much as they did back then with the cigarette money bringing them out, which was great. They ran JPS cars, they were awesome. The black Nance chassis in JPS colours, black and gold, and they had 4 of them on a truck together, an open truck, and off they went. They toured the countryside. And it was good when they came out, because I bought a couple of race suits from them as well, because they bring out some gear with them that they finished with running over the years. I've got 2 of his of Steve Kinser's suits still sitting around in a box somewhere. I'll have to dig them out and put them up and show you guys one night. I'll go through my collection of bits and pieces like that. I've got a few of my race suits still and helmets and that floating around. So yeah, it's always handy to keep them around, bringing back memories, and it's all part of who you are as a person, the past and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, the Kinsers would be my number 1 pick for the racing families in the US. There are others as well that you could go make the list. Like you got the Steve Smith Senior and Junior, and you got the Hordenchilds, they're still pretty well going. Doug Wolfgang, Swindell, the brothers and the father and son, and Steve, Sammy Swindell's still running. He gets in the car for the Chili Bowl and he's still as fiery as ever. So yeah, there's a lot of families that, second or third generations that are still running. In Australia, we've got probably the most popular Speedway family anyway would be the Tatnells. George and then Brooke Tatnell, now Garrett Tatnell's racing in the US. Started off in micros and I believe he's running 410 car now as well, and Brooke's still having a drive every now and then as well, keep his hand in and things like that. He's, married an American girl, made a good life for himself over there in America. So, but his son is now getting on board. And probably our most popular, probably the most winning family anyway, with Australian titles and that between them, would be the Braziers. Third generation now. Jordan's running around down south. Steve Senior and then Steve O and then Gary went on and won. What did he win? 5 or 6 national titles. Just a driver that kind of went off the rails a bit with partying and stuff like that as he got older, and just lost interest in driving, I guess. He was a good driver. I did a few seasons with him as a mechanic, and I did World Series with him out here, and a couple of titles up here, and a few titles in Parramatta and Warrnambool and that, and classics and that with him. Yeah, Gary Brazier as a driver was a force within himself. It was unbelievable to watch. He can make those cars do whatever he needed, and his old man was, old school mechanic when it came to it, but really knew his stuff and could set up a good race car. And they kept it, they were different with their approach to what they did things. Family-run team, Mum was always there with them. She was the referee sometimes with the arguments between, Steve Senior and Gary. But they did well. Jordan's now running around. I believe he's still running sprint cars down there. And I did see Gary enter the show as well at Eastern Creek last year or the year before. And still wheeling around pretty well. He hasn't lost it, just getting a bit older. I think he's a few years younger than me, but he's still getting older. So that's, number 3 would be the Braziers. And then, locally, I can't mention families without motorsport, particularly sprint cars, without mentioning the Walkers from up here in Brisbane. Another third generation, 3 generations of racing. Jeff was racing, he was a saloon car guy back in his younger days. Then the boys started off. I met them, it would have been 1985, I guess, was the first time I met him at GP Cars, a speedway shop or a motorsport shop that we had here in Brisbane for quite a few years. They were buying a race suit because they were starting to get into modified production at the time, or production cars. And I was running the leader cars, and we became friends. And Murray, the Walkers, and I have been friends ever since. Murray's been groomsman at my weddings and all that sort of stuff. We've been through a lot together. Then they went in the sprint cars, both Clay and Muzz, and then Callum Rock was coming to the earth, and he started off in karts and all that sort of stuff, and then finally got into sprint cars and dabbled in Super 2 and all that sort of stuff. So, another third generation racer who's had his motorsport career cut short through a few injuries and stuff like that. He broke his back again for the 3rd time earlier on this year down in Mount Gambier. And, I don't think he'll get back in a car for quite a while if he does again. But unfortunately, another good talent that went. Same with the McComb family. Dean, a 2nd generation driver, and won 5 or 6 leader car titles and all that sort of stuff. And another guy whose career was cut short through injuries and that, through several crashes and that, and it kind of head injuries and things like that, or trauma. He's joined the list of drivers who've had to give up earlier than what they should have. But he's gone on to be a good businessman now. He works for Titan Garages, and he's run a couple of cars for different people and things like that. So it's another family. Like, there are a lot of families, particularly in Australia, that continue on. Like in go-karting now, you've got the Buckley family with Alice Buckley running. Her old man used to race go-karts. Her granddad was involved in karting. And you got Paddy Jr. and that. He's now running karts, and he's dabbling in a bit of 86s, and I think he's doing some Hyundai stuff and that as well. So yeah, there's a lot of families that, second or third generation kids that Wanlesses, for example, Todd and Dean Wanless, their father was a Australian champion speed car driver and all that sort of stuff, won heaps, and they went on to forge their own careers and standout performances in both on and off-road racing, in speedway and stuff like that, as well as trotting. Like Todd was a really good trotting driver, as well as a sprint car peddler. He won the midget title. He also won a sprint car title. He's won a lot of stuff over the years. And again, he was cut his career short through injuries and stuff like that, and just got to the point where I realised it's a young man's sport. I was listening to a podcast the other day, watching it this morning with Tony Stewart was on there with Dale Jr. and stuff like that, talking about it. And, Tony Stewart's he's just on 50, and he realised that he couldn't, he could probably pedal as good as the young guys, on a semi-regular basis, but he admitted that you got to be in the gym more often. You've got to be, you do your 60 or 70 nights over there racing, and that's what you need to do to stay sharp. You can't just do a limited 6 or 8, 10 race program or whatever and expect to make A mains and things like that. You can show up and run some of the smaller shows, but if you're going to run either World of Outlaws or High Limit or something like that, or even do the East Coast Swing or something like that, you've got to you still got to be on the money, because you need to make the A to get paid for a start, to make money, and you need to win. And if you don't make the A and you don't make money, you don't race. That's the thing. So getting back on the subject of family racing, our top fives and stuff like my top fives, I'm up to number 3 now with the Walkers and that. So yeah, they've gone on to do a lot of stuff with sprint cars and, like I said, with Super 2 and things like that. So watch your space. He might come back. Hopefully he's back. He's taking care of himself. He's a really good little athlete too. Callum, he went off and decided he was going to do Ironman and all that sort of stuff, and downhill mountain bike riding. He's a fit little bloke, a young guy. So hopefully he might get back in one day. So we'll see what happens. He's still young enough. If not, we'll see what adventures they bring up. I know, they're always fun to be around and stuff like that. I don't think we'll see a McComb back in a car. Through the family type thing, you've still got Mitchell G running around. They're running, I think they're going Super Sands again this year. So they're sold off the family car, and I think he's driving the McCosker car this next season coming. So yeah, he's another next generation racer. Like his dad, Michael, was won leader car titles. He won super sedan car titles. The guy can drive as well as being a really good mechanic. He could set up a race car and had a really good understanding of the finer things on race car setup and things like that. And went on after, he's worked for other big names. Like I know early on he was instrumental in the early years with Ryan Newton and stuff like that. Very smart man on the spanners. And he's done well. And he's getting a bit older now, and he's still as sharp as a tack when it comes to it. He's a couple of years older than me. But yeah, he's a smart guy on the spanners, and he's a good guy to have in your corner if you're going to go racing. Or I know they ran some laps together. They both ran the family car and the McCosker car in Gladstone the other week, and had some fun. And yeah, it was good to see what I saw of the highlights and all that on social media and things like that. The posts, it looks like they did well. And Michael can jump in anything and do a couple of laps, and then he's right on the pace fairly well straight away. Like he's done late dirt mods and all that sort of stuff. Model lights he did. He just jumped in for a steer and ended up winning and things like that. So very handy steerer, Michael. Mitchell's pretty good as well. Maturing well in his driving. He's started off in go-karts and then went, he went, they do, go-karts. And he went straight up to dirt modified, and then went sprint cars with console, and then went to the Titan car with Reeve Kruk, and then, kind of dabbled in their own stuff and a few other drives here and there. And wound up in the family car that they put a super sedan car program together for a couple of years, and went rather well, went to the national title and things like that. Acquitted himself rather well. Was leading some laps, was top qualifier and that, some big races, but just got caught up in other people's messes and things like that. So yeah, another second generation driver who had a lot to big shoes to fill, and you kind of wonder how they're going to go. And he did it quietly and did it his way, and yeah, he's kind of getting there. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the future holds for him. But I'll keep my eyes open. He's always good to watch, and they're a good family still as well. I haven't seen him, I haven't caught up with them for a while. I think Muzz's 40th was the last time we caught up. Really had a good chat. But I did a lot of travel with them early on in the days as well when I was younger, and recently as well with the with console racing, with Dirt Modified and that, when we went over west and things like that. It was great fun. So yeah, another family operation. The brother-in-law and all that helped work on the car. I think they were part owners and things like that. So yeah, it's good to see. And so they rate in my top 5. It's not really a rating thing that I'm doing with the top 5 family. It's just the family, just touching on the different families and how good it is that family, second and third generation races are there and things like that. Like circuit racing, you look at the Johnsons, Dick Johnson, then Steve, and Jet worked his way up through karts and was doing tin tops and stuff like that. And then just things got a little bit too much with him with the name and things, and he just needed a break, and I think he's going to get back into it fairly soon too. I know Steve still does a bit of touring car masters and things like that, and as the driver standards thing. Dick still owns the team, the Shell team. So yeah, it is still involved in sport. It was good to see him out at QR a few years ago, running all 3 of them out on the track together, 3 generations. So it was good to see, and that something that you kind of really look forward to as a driver or anything in sport, being in the same sort of arena or sporting field or whatever with your child. And I was lucky. I've done a few laps in go-karts, but I haven't been on the track at the same time as Georgia. It's something that I really hoped that we could have done before she stepped out of the go-kart, and something we might get the chance to do down the track. Like she might decide one night, even if we just go out to Slideways or something like that, or one of the kart tracks and just have them run a few laps, just to be able to do it and be on the track. It'd be a proud moment. I've watched her come through the ranks, so yeah, it'd be something that you aspire to and you really look forward to, whether it be football, cricket. You look at some of the country, some of my customers out in the country, they're 3rd or 4th generation farmers and things like that, and they still play club cricket and things like that, and their kids are playing in the same grade as them and things like that, or they're coaching their kids. It's something that you really look forward to, and you can share some really good moments. Like look at it in NRL with Cleary and that sort of stuff. Like he's won premierships with his son. How cool is that? As a head coach and one of the star players in your side is your son, and you get to go on and win and win premierships and do all that stuff together. Really that cements it and makes it. You can tick a lot of boxes there. That's what you've achieved. So that's in the families like that still with motorsport. There are a lot more that and even in karting and things like that, the dirt karts and things like that. Just look at the RC cars now. You got Seb and Ruben and that, and then Scotty and his son running around, and yeah, it's good to see. It's that they're sharing their hobby and their passion with their children, and it's something that everyone wants to do, and everyone should get a chance of doing, regardless of what it is. Even in the shed, like working on projects. I remember being a kid and working on push bikes with my dad and stuff like that, rebuilding them. I never had one brand new bike, I think, when I was a kid, and I won that in a fundraiser at the soccer club. Other than that, it was all hand-me-down bikes and things like that we've rebuilt and things like that and repainted, stand them back, repaint the frames, put new tyres on them, re-sticker them and things like that. But they were the cool bikes back then, like the Mongooses and stuff like that and Tufts, and now you're paying $5 or $6 grand or even more for those bikes, the genuine ones, and I've still got one sitting there in the shed, so I'm looking forward to I'll put that back together one day, restore it back to its original condition. It'll be awesome because you can still get a lot of the parts still now retro for it as well. So it's another little good project for in the garage as I get a little bit older. Still got my skateboard and a few other bits and pieces sitting around. So yeah, just bits and pieces like that. So that's my families in motorsport, touch on that. You know, I've gone through listed the top 5 families that are still really prominent names in motorsport, both over here and in the US. Time to do a bit of a shout out now for people who support Gaz's Garage. My usual 3, you know, you can't go without particularly 2 of them, Bucked Off Apparel and Alpha Outdoor and Hunting. Like I keep saying, you know, if you're in Dolby area, look them up, or even online, you can shop online and buy all this stuff. And then Jason and the crew down at Black Knight RC as well. Without them, my racing this year wouldn't be on the level that it is. Like I keep saying, I mightn't be the fastest out there or the best driver, but geez, I look good doing it. Like my cars, they looked awesome on the track on Saturday night under lights. The wrap and that this year just pops. Like it really does look good. And next night thing, I'll get some more I'll get some better footage. I didn't get a chance to film any racing, but I'll definitely get the GoPros and that out for the next round, and particularly under lights, and post more of that stuff as well on my YouTube channel. So that's wants a shout out or support a shout out for us for tonight. That's the commercials out in the way. The other thing I just wanted to discuss and talk about, and we discuss it a lot in the shed or in other people's sheds as well, products that you use that, you know, you really like to, you endorse without being paid to endorse it. Like I'm a big Snap-on fan, always have been from the early 80s when I bought my first spanner set on to now. I still, Snap-on, I still rate it and I still endorse it, and I'll still put it out there that it is the best hand tool that a mechanic can use. Beauty about it is lifetime warranty on a lot of the stuff, things like that. So, and you do pay a little bit extra, but you know, good isn't cheap, and cheap isn't good, as they say. So yeah, I'll always be Snap-on, and I'll always, you know, if I ever go back on the spanners again, which I doubt I will at this age, but I've still got my big box sitting there full of Snap-on tools and things like that. Other products that I love using and endorse, and that is my Yeti products. You know, my cups, my bag, my cooler bag, my stubby coolers, my big Yeti bottle and things like that. Like, it's probably the best water bottle that I've ever used. I can fill it up full of ice on a Sunday night or Monday morning before I go away out west, and I've still got ice cold water in there with a little bit of ice come Friday. So it's awesome. There are a lot of good brands on the market as well, but I still like my Yeti and things like that. And you know, my oils, you get into routine and things that you brought up. Like, I'm a Castrol person. I've tried Valvoline. I was sponsored by Valvoline and things like that when I raced, and Penrite and a few other bits and pieces, but I still always go back to Castrol for their products. I think, you know, their oils and that, everything they do is second to none. So yeah, I'll always endorse Castrol. I used to get oil on that for nothing and product sponsorship and stuff like that. I used to sell a lot of their product. I used to look after their account when I first started at Alum Lube and things like that, but I still use and recommend Castrol oils for all my stuff. My bike, my go-kart engines, the two-stroke oil for RC cars is Castrol. Yeah, it's just the way it is. I've tried different other brands, but I'll always go back to Castrol. So you got the Yeti, you got your Snap-on, I got my Castrol oils. My boots, I'm a big RM Williams fan. I always have been, I always will be. It's a bit of a status symbol to be able to afford to buy RMs, because you pay $600 or $700 for a pair. But I got 24, 25 years out of my other pair, and I still wear them every now and then if I'm going, like if I'm out west and I know I'm going to be out in a harsh environment and I don't want to ruin my good RMs, I'll put the old ones on, and they're in the back of the ute for occasions like that. So I go, you know, everyone looks and goes, you spend $600 or $700 on a pair of boots, but they do last years if you look after them. Like every month I give them a polish and recondition them. My black RMs now, I'll drop them off tomorrow at the RM Williams shop in Toowoomba. They need new heels put on them, so I'll get them done. And yeah, you can't go past. And I don't get paid by any of these people to endorse their products either. Like, I'm not that much of an influencer anyway, so I don't have that much power over people to say go and buy. It's just my personal opinion. Like, love my RMs. Always have had when I was a kid. growing up, always wanted a pair. I had secondhand ones and that growing up, and then I got a brand new pair for myself when I was 20 something odd years ago. So, and I will wear them all the time now, and they're a 5 day a week, 6 day a week pair of boots for me. So, and I wear them everywhere, and I've got a good pair of boots. I call them my town boots, and they're the ones I wear when I'm going to functions and things like that as well. They might go with my dress pants. So yeah, I like my RMs, I like my Crocs, and I'm things like that. So they're my main products that I wish I could endorse, that I was paid to endorse or a sponsored thing. You kind of grow up getting to like a product, and I found Yeti when I was in America, and I've never looked back since. So that's my plugs for the companies, and like I keep saying, I don't get paid by them, I don't get anything from them, it's just something I do. But my supporters that I plug a lot, like Bucked Off, Alpha Hunting, Jason and the team down at Black Knight, even Nat at Signright does all my stickers and things like that. If people look after me, I'll look after them and push them and tell everybody how good they are. That's the way it is, and I hope my customers do the same with me. They tell everybody how good our product is, and that's how I build it up. I'm not a used car style salesman. I'm more of a relationship builder. A lot of my customers I call friends, and they're good to me. And even if we have a rough time, something doesn't work out well, we're still at the end of the day, I can hold my head up high and say I've given them the best effort for them and things like that, and done my best. I kind of treat it like they're buying off me. They're buying me. They're not buying a product. So, and that's what stands me apart from other sales reps. I build relationships, and that's what I do. And with the depression and everything like that, my issues, it's hard sometimes to build those, to be able to be confident enough to build those relationships, because I went through a stage there for a while where I didn't like who I was and stuff like that. So that's why I'm doing this more and more now and getting out there more on social media, and it's helping me. My journey with everything has been a lot easier since I've been doing this stuff now. I started off recording podcasts probably 6 or 7 years ago. Never put any live. I just record my thoughts and that, and then I'd listen to a couple, 2 or 3 weeks later, and that'd be it. I never put anything live. But then my psychologist at the time said, "You stop, put it out there, let people hear about it. People have got the same issues, and they might click with something you said, and it might help them. Same with some of the feedback I get helps me, progress myself with my journey and the battles I have and things like that. And you hear about things. This whole podcast thing has been awesome as a new medium type for everything, like the things you learn and the podcasts I listen to. I don't know about you guys, what else you listen to and things like that. But yeah, I got a few favourites that I absolutely enjoy. Some of them I learn a lot from. Some of them, I listen to. I like Dale Jr.'s podcast that he does with his wife and stuff like that. Any of these Dirty Mo stuff. Apex Hunters from out here, Scotty Pye and that. And I really enjoy that, as well as Lucky Dogs with Brody and Will. That's good. And there's a couple others that I like watching on YouTube as well. One of a lady from South Australia. I think she's based and does a lot of her farming stuff. It's good for. I enjoy that, and some of the other farming that you see on TikTok and things like that. Wisey and those guys, and Laura Farms from the US. That's always good to watch. So I hope you guys will benefit, or enjoy what you see. I know I rub it on sometimes and things like that. So, but subscribe, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, if you don't like what you think, you don't have to listen. That's my thing. But yeah, so what else has been going on in the garage this week? We raced on the weekend. I did touch on that early on with the RC cars. It was our first outlaw meet for the year. It was a good night's racing. Actually, I didn't podium at all, but the format that we raced out there was awesome. We did a 3-minute qualifying or time trial thing, and then straight into heat 1 of 12 laps. Then we ran a 40-lap final. It was a a compressed sort of format, but it was a really good format, and the track was awesome. And some great racing as well. Like our Outlaw sprint cars and that were awesome. The late models were just, there was only 3 or 4 of them, and they were just sensational to watch. Our dirt mods, some of the best racing I've had. And I didn't finish on the podium, but it was probably the best race meeting I've had since I've been doing the sport. So that was on the weekend. New Zealand was on with the supercars. It was a shortened format as well for them because of the cyclone threat coming through. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Supercars decided to cancel the Sunday racing, and because of the weather coming through, it didn't eventuate. But if it would have eventuated and they would have put the meeting on, they would have been the worst people on the thing. I think they made the right decision in cancelling Sunday. It was preventative more than anything else. Our government's done it to us in Queensland before. We've all talked it up and batten down the hatches. It's going to be gnarly. And nothing ever eventuates. But if something did eventuate, you'd be dirty at the government and the Weather Bureau for getting it so wrong, for not acting. So as much as it pains me, Supercars did make the right decision. And so they're off. They're doing a double header in New Zealand this week. So they're off. They'll be racing again this weekend over there. And the Jason Richards Cup is alive. And close. There's 3 or 4 drivers it's still on the show to win that. So it's always that's probably a nice trophy to win for the Jason Richards Memorial Trophy. Jason was he was an inspiration. He fought the battle of cancer right to the end and always had a smile on his face, and was one of, probably the nicest guys that you'll ever meet on the racetrack. Excellent steerer. Again, another poor guy cut down in his prime, and but his name lives on with the trophy. And Brad Jones and the team down at BJR out of Albury, they always put the star and the JR on their cars, and that because he was their drive, like he drove with them and had a lot of good results with them, and would have gone on to probably win 1 or 2 championships if he would have beaten the battle for cancer, but it beat him, which is unfortunate. So that was on the weekend, and they're back again this weekend as well. And Speedway's starting to wind down a bit now, coming towards the end of the season here in Australia. But kicking off in America, I see Outlaws are going along really well. High Limits doing its usual. And NASCAR is just being NASCAR. It just never fails. It always delivers. It's no matter what no matter what racetrack they're at, it's always great racing. And it doesn't get boring. I kind of lost it a little bit with NASCAR because they went away, fuel injection and stuff like that, and more electronics in the car than what it used to be. I still love the old restrictor plate racing tracks and things like that, and all the bump drafting and the old school racing. That's old school racecraft, which you don't do much anymore. And NASCAR was probably the last bastion for that, because you look at IndyCar, you look at F1. F1's just you steer it. You're as a driver, you're the link between the computer and the steering wheel. That's about it. If they could steer it from the pits, they probably would as well. They control everything else from the pits, and it's all electronic driven. So I'm not a huge F1 fan, but I follow it mainly because of Oscar and stuff like that, because there's an Australian doing well over there. Probably he'll go on and win a world championship, I'd say. He's my pick. He will win one in the next couple of years, like Brock Feeney will win probably 2 or 3 supercar titles as well. So that's my predictions. NASCAR-wise, Ben Gisbergen over there, he's just going to give him another year or so running the oval tracks, and he'll be mentioned. His name will be up there with the greats, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Marcus Ambrose, and all those guys. And Scotty McLaughlin, the same with IndyCar. He's about to crack it and go on to bigger and better things. That's the motorsport wrap for tonight. I've rattled on now for over half an hour. I don't want to keep you I don't want to bore you too much. So coming up in other episodes later on this year, like I said, I'm just about got it sorted. I'm going to do a few outside broadcasts as well from different garages. Got a few guys lined up. Going to do one from inside the racetrack, and we'll have a walk around and go through what's in there, what mainly a supercar or a GT4 program truck, sprint car truck, and I should be able to get into a supercar truck as well and just show you what they carry and things like that. So yeah, just go through and have a look at the pit setup and things like that as well. Be doing a few bit different things as well, upgrades on my little toy hauler and things like that. Just shorter things on YouTube and things like that to keep you amused and help me get it more out there. So that's all for me tonight. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope I've hit record this time, not like last week where I've gone through 3 or 4 times. It took me 3 attempts to get it right, but I'm hoping like all hell that it has recorded. If it hasn't, I've got to sit down and do it all again. But yeah, like I said, thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, like and subscribe. Tell your mates. Shed door's always open. Metaphorically, of course. It's closed at the moment, but if you ever want to chat, I'm always here. Check on your mates, and remember, it's okay not to be okay. Until later in the week, until I touch base with you all again, and we do another episode next week. Yeah, enjoy, and g'day from the garage.